Happy Friday, guys! So excited. As you guys know, I'm about to be going on live with Lisa from Mindful Life Solutions. We'll be talking all things mindfulness and stress. Just waiting for her to join. Be sure to tell someone else to tune in. Hello, hello, hello. Just waiting on Lisa. Thank you for joining. Hi, Lisa. Okay, now you. Okay, it says we're waiting for Lisa, and as soon as I can see, yay! Hi.
Super zoomed in my head. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, I'm pretty good.
So excited. So guys, Lisa is one of my really good friends and another therapist. And she's actually the person that made mindfulness not a dirty word for me. So Lisa, please introduce yourself and all the great work you're doing.
Yeah, so I actually remember the day that we met because I had talked to you about, I was like, oh yeah, and I try to live a mindful life, and you were like, oh, like that. You're like, no, that's just terrible, none of that. So it's been really interesting to just kind of see your evolution and where you're at and joining some of the things that I've done. But yeah, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of Florida, and I specialize in anxiety, stress, and trauma. And my company is Mindful Life Solutions. So I, try to really embody that for myself and also, living a mindful life. And I'm not going to get too much into it now because I'm sure we're going to talk about it in our discussion of what that means and what that looks like. But I'm really excited to be here. You and I were both doing series last month related to stress, and you were doing the stress-free spring, and I had to kind of like a mindful moment challenge. So we had talked about kind of doing something together, and here it is. So I'm excited.
Indeed. Actually, this is Lisa's brainchild, because I would have never thought to do an IG Live, so thank you so much. For those
Yeah.
who don't know who I am, I'm Jessica. I go by the Superheroes Therapist. I am here in South Florida in Davie, and I work with first responders, other therapists, and clergy primarily. Help people that have a lot of like vicarious trauma, burnout, stress, the whole gamut of fun things when you spend your life helping others heal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I wanted to start, particularly for you, like why mindfulness?
Mindfulness. Oh my gosh. Well, I first got introduced to the concept when I started doing yoga. So long story short, I had taken a position in an agency, another company before, and things were just, there was a lot of demands. I was really stressed out, and I had gotten in that environment after having already gone through several years in another similar environment that was very stressful. So I, was really looking for ways to start taking care of myself because I was like at my limit with just everything in general, it was really difficult. And a friend of mine had been inviting me to do yoga for a while. And then one day I just was like, okay, finally, I'll go. And I went and I really liked it. And that's where, I first tried like meditation, and they talked about being present. And so I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of started to look into it more and explore it more on my own. And then I just, I don't know, I guess started to live my life in this way and recognize how the stress I was experiencing was really impacted by, my awareness of my surroundings, where I was, and really practicing being very conscious about that, hence the mindful about it. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey, and now it's something I practice like every day. I don't really think about it as much, but definitely sometimes I do. We'll definitely talk all about it. It's a constant thing. It's a process, never ending, all the time.
What was really cool for me is I had done like the mindfulness based stress reduction. I told you about it. And I was like, I hated it. It was the most awful thing ever. And you were like, what? No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It shouldn't be. And you literally, we were at a mixer, and I had just met you, and you were like, it shouldn't be. And I was like, this lady has lost her marbles. What
Yeah.
is she talking about? And you were so strong in your conviction that you could be mindful and not be stressed out and not be overwhelmed and not be overworked, and that mindfulness didn't have to stress you, in a point where I was like, this mindfulness stuff is going to be the death of me.
I
So it, like,
remember
you
seeing
impacted me so greatly that
you.
I've really been super intentional about how I incorporate it into my life.
Mhm.
So let's talk stress, because I think everyone thinks stress and mindfulness differently. Like, so for me,
Mhm.
mindfulness was a source of stress for me. Thinking about being present and intentional, and my body was like, Mayday, Mayday, I can't do it. But after like really speaking with you and then starting to really delve into it more for myself, from a less, so when I was doing the mindfulness stuff, I was stressed out in my work, and
Mhm.
being mindful and present in your body when you're stressed out will like exacerbate your anxiety through the roof. So I wasn't doing it wrong. I just wasn't doing it informed.
Right.
So really trying to figure out like where's that link for people? Like how do stress and mindfulness work hand in hand, and how can we give people some tips to like really combat that?
Yeah. So I think you pointed out something really important, which is kind of like how it worked for you, like what your experience was, and also the concept that you had of it. So I guess my question would kind of be like, what was the shift? What did you find that kind of like made the shift for you?
You made it sound so simple. Like when I went, we were doing like these 30-minute body scans, and I was like,
Mhm.
I have ADHD. So I was just anxious about that. And you were like, you don't have to do it like everyone else does it. You do what works for you. You take whatever you're already doing and you magnify that and find ways when you feel stressed to not feel as stressed. So I was like, okay, cool. You talked to me about EMDR. Since then, I've gone to EMDR training. So really, like you have been, yes, like you have been like the catalyst in me really leading not only a more mindful, like a more mindful practice. Because a lot of my
Yeah.
clients are anxious and overwhelmed. And when we think about like meditating or being still, that in itself is the genesis of the anxiety.
Mhm.
And just talking to you, and you're just like, Jess, like it's really not that serious. Just think that you love and really be present in that moment. And I was like, so it's just being present. And it wasn't about being present and like letting the stress like drive the bus, or the overwhelm drive the bus. It was kind of like, okay, well, I can be stressed and sit with stress rather than sitting in my stress and kind of being in that space of duress. So it was so interesting for me when I took it from the standpoint of it wasn't so like mathematical where there was a right and a wrong way to do it, that there was just fluidity, and whatever was mindful and intentional for me would work. And
Yeah.
that's how I was like, let's start going through and finding ways that people who think like me and who are very like type A high strung can go through and incorporate it where it doesn't feel so heavy and like so much and so daunting to do. So that's really like honestly like you are the expert that led me to mindfulness. I was like, you want to work with me? This is so
Oh my
cool,
gosh.
because it definitely opened my eyes to it in a way that I had never thought about it before. Even post like a 40-hour, 8-week intensive MBSR training, silent retreats, deep breathing, mindful eating, all of that jazz. It didn't feel like homework when you explained to me. It was just a way of life.
Yeah, so that's so funny that you talk about just kind of like that natural like fluidity and things because I didn't yeah, I didn't subscribe to like this I don't know, like rigid thinking. I just started doing these things, incorporating them, and I found like, wow, this helps me. I think one of the things I had mentioned to you, which I do like to talk to people, is like if you're an active person and you like to move around, then move around. You don't have to sit in one place. It's about, yeah, being present with yourself. So if I'm somebody that, you know, I sitting, which you had told me, you're like, I don't want to just sit in silence and like stare at a wall or like close my eyes. It's like too much. Then if you like to move, go for a walk, look around, like what is it that you're taking in during this time? And what do you feel is really, I always talk about like replenishment or nourishment, like what is nourishing to you? I can sit in traffic, which we live in South Florida, right? I have to live with traffic and that can be stressful, but I can either focus on the fact that like I'm gridlocked and I'm stuck behind this person, or I can decide, okay, well, I can put on, I don't know, like a meditation. Maybe I will do that sometimes. A meditation, you know, audio thing, or I can put on some relaxing music. I can look outside and notice that it's a beautiful blue sky. Well, I'm still paying attention kind of to the road, but you know, it's a different experience. So it's really about like how you shift your focus. Even if I'm in this chaotic environment, there are still things that nourish me. You know, I could be at work in a cubicle, let's say, at a desk, and I can focus on the fact that there's like 100, phone calls going off at the same time, because I know a lot of people work in environments like that. Or I can focus on the picture that I have maybe of my family in front of me and how I'm here for my family, how much I love my family. And that keeps me very grounded. Or I could have a candle or something. Well, they don't always allow candles, but like essential oil or something else. I could have like a little fluffy blanket or a pillow. It's all of that of like being present for myself right now. Even though I'm here with all of this around me, it doesn't have to go into me, if that
Right.
makes sense. So yeah.
It did. And I think that when I took the stress goggles off and it wasn't like another to do, I was
Mhm.
already so mindful in my life and I just didn't call it that. Like, always had like smells. So in my office, I always have like the lemon verbena smell. Like, I like the fresh, lively smell. I have my white noise machine on stream 24/7. So it
Yeah.
really sets the ambiance. So my clients come in like, oh man, it feels like a sanctuary. I feel safe in here. So they associate the stream and the smell with safety. And I thought
Mhm.
about like our olfactory senses and how trauma really like goes through and it like takes hold of those things. And I didn't think
Absolutely.
about like how the link between how our brain processes smells and sights and memories also works in the inverse, where we can go through and program smells that are smells of peace and of joy and of like to really ground ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I think if we take it from at least what's worked for me in this season, as I've
Mhm.
been really focusing on being more mindful, both for, well, first for myself and then for others, was to
Mhm.
go through and figure out how can I go through and make sure that there is that feeling of peace and grounding everywhere I look, and being very intentional about how I place things, because stress pops up everywhere all the time. It's not like, oh, only when it's convenient on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, here comes stress clocking in. It's like, oh my gosh, stress, 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 stress. And when we think about, at least when I think about being mindful, I think about putting in place those things to help that
Mhm.
when stress pops up, I also need to go through and mitigate how much that pops up for me and kind of balance it out.
Mhm. Yeah, which brings up something else that we had talked about, self-care. And I think, again, like this concept of mindful living is separate. Self-care can be a part of that, but it's not that I'm like running myself ragged, how you said, like Tuesday, 3 o'clock, oh, that's my time to relax. I'm just going, 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 going all week. And then, okay, Sunday is my off day. I'm going to relax, watch some Netflix, hang out. And that's my recharge for 7 whole days, or even the idea of going on a vacation once a year. It's like I'm gonna grind myself into the ground, and then for those 2 weeks I'll have some peace. No, why are you living your life like that? You can do things every day, can be like I say, like a little treat to yourself. But yeah, nourishing yourself, thinking of yourself like this complex organism, like a plant. Plants need water, plants need sun, plants need nutrients from the earth. So it's the same idea that I can't neglect a plant for 2 weeks and then throw some water on it and expect it to just come back to life.
Or
Maybe a
50
little.
weeks.
Right, in 52 weeks, like a little bit of it might grow back. But why am I letting it just like dry up, shrivel up till there's practically nothing left? So we have to think of ourselves like that. If I start to feel like my leaves are a great metaphor, I guess. If my leaves are kind of, like wilting, then I need to water myself. What do I need today in this moment to water myself? So that's really, I think, the way to think about it. Just how you said, like your environment, all those sorts of things. So one of the things that I've gotten really good at is just, and I really teach my clients to do this, because I work a lot with anxiety and trauma, those main two things. And as you know, like it can hijack your brain. So I can try to think positive thoughts all I want all day long, but that's not going to soothe my sympathetic nervous system. Like that's what's firing off. It's a physiological response. So I teach people to really scale, check in with themselves constantly in the morning. Where am I at? Am I at a 0, calm as a cucumber? Am I at a 10? I'm about to explode. Where am I at throughout the day? If I notice I'm getting to like a 5 or a 6, then I need to start intervening at that point. So many people telling me, especially when we're talking about stress, that, oh, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, something happened and they went 0. They talk about, oh, 0 to 100. No, you were probably walking around at a 6, 7, 8, and then that happened, and it sent you, well, as you know, like with EMDR, out of your window of tolerance. So I got to check in with myself and start to really, that helps us to also expand that window of what we're capable of dealing with once we're aware. We learn how to soothe ourselves, so that's why I love the grounding, the set, olfactory, all those kinds of things. It really makes a difference.
When you were talking about the plant, I'm like a big visual child. Everything that I have is like a big like cartoon illustration in my head. So you were talking about, like, I think about people that like actually go through and they are like plant, like horticulturists, I think what they're called, like they're actual plant people. Yeah. They can tell you like what this plant needs, when it needs, based on looking at it and studying it. People that work on computers, the same thing. In our field, we can do it. So whatever you're an expert in, you can identify a problem, a root cause, and a solution like that. We spend 24/7 with ourselves, and most people can't tell you what that thing is. It's like the last drop in the bucket that's going to make them explode. So when I started really thinking about practicing more mindfulness and being able to present it to my clients who were like, what is this mindfulness mumbo jumbo? We're not doing that. Give me a CBT worksheet. I'm going to, catch it, check it, change it, and that's it. And they weren't able to identify, well, physiologically, this happened before. You need to catch it, check it, change it. If I can get you into your physiology and say, hey, when I'm anxious, or on my drive to work before a leadership meeting, I feel my heart racing when I get in the car. Yes. So by the time you get to that leadership meeting at 3 o'clock and you got to work at 7 in the morning, the first thing to you, of course, you're already tightly wound. Your ears are at your shoulders. Your teeth are ground. You're very tired. You feel it in your face. So I've been really working with my clients, particularly on identifying like where they feel every emotion. So you may not know what emotion is present in that moment. If you can identify, when I'm anxious, I always feel it in my teeth. My jaw feels very tight. You're at work and your jaw's tight. Well, maybe I'm anxious, versus trying to have them to identify the emotion that goes with physiology. If we can just say, this is what my physiology feels like across the board, and give that information to them, they can then say, hey, I'm at a 5 because, or as evidenced by, this, whatever that symptom is, and they then know how to combat it. Because I know in my anxiety toolbox, I can pull this out and this is going to work, versus us just having a random toolbox with everything, our kitchen equipment, our hair tools and stuff to build our house, and that's what happens when we don't know how to regulate and really figure out what goes where. We have every tool that's useful for everything in one box. And when this emotion happens, I'm lost trying to go through this toolbox. So that's going to help me combat this anxiety, this overwhelm, this stress, this depression, whatever that particular emotion is. And then when that emotion hijacks me, then my core belief is I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I can't control myself, I'm not safe. Yeah. Because really you give yourself the tools to say, hey, I'm going to get from here to there. We don't feel bad when we use Google Maps for stuff. If I'm lost, I will pull over and pull out Google Maps. But if I'm overwhelmed, people look at it as like a pride thing. Well, I'm too strong to be stressed out. I can handle this. When then the inverse is, plants are never like, I can handle being in the sun forever, don't water me. Right. And they respond adversely when they're not getting the nutrients that they need. And we want to go through with being watered once every 52 weeks and be like, I should be able to survive. Then when we're stressed out and we hate our lives, we're like, okay, well, what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's, yes, that exactly how you mentioned, kind of like that constant awareness, just checking in with yourself. And when you learn it, then exactly how you mentioned, if I'm going about my day and I notice, oh yeah, my heart's starting to flutter, I'm starting to sweat a little bit. Okay, what's that about? And it's that curiosity, that checking in, that really makes the difference and stops us. I mean, if you talk about, for your clients, particularly working with first responders, that sort of thing, that really helps them in addressing what they need to stop that burnout process. And I had personally experienced burnout before. And so that was also part of that whole thing for me of learning, like, I'm not okay. It's not okay to just keep going like this. And you just kind of shove it. You're like, well, I don't have time for that right now. You're not going to be as effective doing your job if you are not truly taking care of yourself. And it goes back to, what am I doing for self-care? Is it just once a week? Is it a little bit every day? I think one of the things I tell people is, like, when I talk to them about self-care, and I think this is my difference of like having this like mindful lens, is people are like, oh, well, I can get a massage or get my nails done or whatever. But I say, but they're like, I don't have time for that in a day. I don't have, like 2-3 hours. I said, sorry. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes? I don't know if I have 5 minutes. Do you have 1 minute? I have said that to people. Do you have 1 minute? 1 minute. Okay, let's do it right now. And you just have to get into that practice of, if I have 1 minute, I'll do it right now. You have to
Yeah, and I talk so much to my clients about self-care because we are like, pop culture tells us self-care is only facials. When I go to get a facial, this is the most painful hour of my week because they're extracting stuff. It's even massages are never enjoyable till they're over because I'm all like face squinched up because I've got knots and your body really keeps score. Like for real, it keeps score. So if I had a rough week and I go for a massage, that hour is not enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
My facials are never enjoyable because my face just won't let me be great. And I need extractions every time I go.
Yeah.
So we talk about self-care in these like ways that seem like we can just go here and it's gonna like a magic pill, it's gonna fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what really self-care is, and I tell my clients their first homework every session is, tomorrow set your alarm clock for every hour on the hour and take 1 minute and just be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. I can do it. No problem. They were like, it was like a microwave minute. It was a treadmill minute. And I didn't notice how much stuff went on in my head for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh my gosh, just being present with myself is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so used to just going and being and doing, and there's never really time to have like downtime to really check in. And as they go along, 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks in, they're like, oh, I took 10 minutes today. Yeah. And they feel like accomplished. You didn't take 10 minutes. They were your 10 minutes that you carved out for yourself. You gave yourself the gift of time. The time you give out freely to others, to your job, to your friends, your family, whatever, whomever. You gave yourself the gift of being present with you. And when I looked at mindfulness through that lens, it's like, what I give away freely to others, I'm going to give back to myself. Like that time, that dedication, that care, the compassion that I would treat you with. Oftentimes, we don't treat ourselves with that compassion, particularly when we're stressed out. We're finding out what I did wrong to make the situation the way that it is, versus when life just happens, things are stressful, here I am, and I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah.
So that's been something that's just been so, like, EMDR has been so revolutionary to me in that way that, okay, I've got identified a core belief, and then what I would rather believe about myself, to go through and give myself a new belief about what it is. So I'm struggling here, but the truth of the matter is, outside of my struggle, I really am doing the best that I can. I really do matter. I really can go through and navigate. And that change of the narrative for someone who has struggled with the identity of self, particularly as it relates to stress and their ability to handle stress, has been so transformative, both personally and in my practice. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I think it's also like one of the things I love about EMDR in particular is because it uses a lot of those mindfulness strategies. Being with yourself, having that awareness, soothing, just before anything else. And you were making me think of something for a moment, because I was thinking of like cognitive work that I might be doing. I think of what it is right now, sorry. But either way, I just really love that whole concept, and just making sure that what I'm doing is intentional. There's a reason why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. If I say, okay, I can't do this right now, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. I think this is what it was. There's always something that's going to stress you out. Sorry, but that's like part of the life, Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, because somebody had called me and my volume, I couldn't hear myself. But yeah, so you have to take it now, because otherwise it'll just be kind of like a runaway train and you'll never get back to it. So you want to build that little by little, and then it'll grow. It'll just kind of naturally develop, as long as you're keeping, this awareness of it. It'll happen, and then it'll get to a point where, which now where I'm at, kind of how you're saying, if I'm sitting in the car or doing something and I start, then I'll just intuitively kind of notice it, because my body has become conditioned to learn it. But we typically are conditioned the opposite, to just ignore, take care of what especially, let's say in the helping field, first responders, for example, therapists, anybody that is in the helping field, we take care of what's in front of us first and then take care of ourselves after. But if I'm not taking care of myself at the same time, then I cannot be as effective as maybe I need to be. I really need to show up. So first I have to show up for myself, to show up for whoever I'm trying to help. Otherwise, I'm not going to be doing them any justice. I might be doing good, but maybe I could be doing great, you know?
Right. One of the things that really like resonated with me when I first began this is that I always thought of like self-care as a very selfish thing. And I've
Mm.
really changed my narrative about how I talk about it, how I explain it to my clients. And I feel like self-care is a selfless act. If I take 20 minutes alone to myself to take care of me so that I am well, when I show up for you, you're getting the best version of me humanly
Yes.
possible. And that is a selfless act, particularly when it's hard. So like you own your own business, I own my own business. So you know if you don't do the work, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If I come to work and I'm frustrated, overwhelmed, burnt out, tired, stressed out, it'll take me 5 hours to do a 4-minute task. So I had to like
Yes.
get up at some mornings where I plan to be like Mondays are my admin work days to like 4 o'clock when I start seeing clients. And I've had to get up some Mondays and Jessica, like you need to just get back in the bed. Put your phone on like the not even by but the silent or just flashes, turn them
Yes, I do
upside
that.
down, and rest until your body lets you know that you are well enough to get up.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like a doer and a mover and a shaker, and I've never been able to stop. Even this past Sunday, it was Mother's Day, and I wanted to be interested. I got up and was like, babe, I really don't feel well. I don't want to push myself past the point of exertion. Like I had a migraine the night before, and I was like, I'm not going to service, and I'm not a church service misser at all.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it from live stream on my phone. I didn't get out of bed service, so I rolled over and I went back to sleep. And we slept, or I slept till like 6, 7 o'clock at night. My body was so tired.
Wow.
Nothing bad happened, but I had a lot of really positive things go on, which also affected my body because in that positivity and that excitement, my body was like, ah, ah, ah. You know, physiologically, a lot of the same things were happening for me. It wasn't trauma induced, but like the adrenaline of excitement and getting stuff done was tiring for my body. And we assume that stress is only a bad thing. Positive things can also put stress on your body if you don't take enough care of yourself, which was like mind blown. And we don't talk about it in that light. We don't talk about how your body handles stress, good stress, bad stress, all stress in a way that we need to then go through and replenish and refill. And that it's not bad to say, I need a break.
Yeah, and I think that that's the other thing is that chronic stress is different. But a lot of us find ourselves in this chronic stress, which a lot of it is like the life, our environment that we're in all of the time. Whether, so if I'm like having a hostile work environment, I talked about this one time before too, then I'm going to be stressed regularly. But then let's say if I go home and my relationship is also maybe in a rocky place, then that I'm not having a place, a time to really like decompress. So that's really important that we have to notice, are you in an environment that habituates stress? Sometimes we can't always get out of it. If there's things that we can do to shift out of it, like you say, maybe if you're entrepreneur, you own your business, then you can maybe have some more control over it. If you can't, then it's okay to figure out like what can you do in each environment to help mitigate that. So I think that's another
simple
big thing.
Things. The dawn of technology has put all the magic at our fingertips. There are apps like Calm and Headspace. Your phone will tell you to get up and drink water. Your phone can play calming. If you don't have a white noise, your phone can put white noise out for you. You can get like, even if you don't have a diffuser, you can get like these doTERRA oils and put them on and smell them. So it's not about like having the means and access to be in therapy 24/7. It's about figuring out these little inconspicuous ways to put the things that spark joy and bring you balance back into your life. That in itself is mindfulness. Like being mindful is I'm going to be aware and I'm going to preemptively strike because stress will show up, bad days, bad moments, bad things will happen, trauma will show up. But how do I protect myself? How do I put in these safeguards? I think of them as like hammocks. Like hammocks are generally they're always like very frail material. But the resistance that I put on a hammock is going to give it enough fortitude to hold me up. So if I think about like my stress thing as a hammock, and the more I lean into my hammock and the more I lay onto it and I give to it, the more it's fortified to hold me up. So if I give myself a little like safeguards to say when I do lay down, when I finally say, hey, I need to take this break, this hammock that's literally this very thin, flimsy piece of whatever, held up by 2 small trees, is fortified in my need for support in this way. So I'm giving the hammock itself purpose. The trees are supporting the hammock. So at the end of the day, everything has a purpose. And when I show up and I lay down, the hammock has its purpose, if that makes sense. For those that are very like into like nature and energy, like I've had to really think about how can I explain this and get it across to anybody on any background? And my clients that are like outdoors, people are like, oh my gosh, so my hammock is supporting me and supporting it. And I'm like, yes, you are fortifying the hammock and giving the hammock purpose by going through and saying, I need this 5 minutes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it takes so much of the guilt away.
A couple minutes. That's the thing.
Everyone.
But we have to break this stigma that it's like an all-day thing. That I really need. It's just, you can cut it up, put it a little bit here, a little bit there, and you'll notice that it makes a difference. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think like the last thing to close.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was saying, I think maybe like the last couple of things to close is like, what are your go-to, like, I can do this and get myself like grounded, like that one thing anybody can do anywhere that can really just help physiologically to just kind of like bring them down.
One of the things that I really love is deep breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. And I teach it to everyone. That is always like the first thing that I teach people to do. So it's just kind of like, well, everybody kind of does it in different ones. Some people do it like 4, 7, 8. I just do it with a count of 5. So like inhale for 5, hold for 5, and exhale. But really imagining, which I had learned, part of the diaphragmatic breathing in TFCBT, so like trauma therapy, initially was kind of like imagining your belly like this balloon, and you're just like expanding the balloon as you're inhaling. So you're taking all of the oxygen in, and then as you're exhaling, really deflating the balloon. So you're pulling your belly back in and really letting all of that out. So that's really the first thing that I do with people. I do it myself. You can do it if you're driving. Just don't close your eyes, obviously, if you're driving. But you can do it while you're driving. You can do it on the couch. You can do it anywhere that you're at. I really, really love that one. So that's really my go-to. And then the essential oils, I do tend to carry those with me. In the morning, I have like little bracelets, and you can kind of see. And so some people call them like meditation bracelets or mala beads or bracelets, whatever, anxiety. They have all different kinds of beads. And I'll just put like a little bit of like the doTERRA, lavender, or something that I really, find grounding for myself. So then throughout the day, if I need it, I'll just, kind of like breathe it in, take a minute. It might look silly, but hey, that works for me, Even if I noticed before I started practicing mindfulness without realizing it at my last job, where on my lunch break, because I'm sure everybody knows, like when you're like eating and you're hunched over your computer and you're like typing and eating, answering emails, that's not lunch. So for me, mindful eating wasn't really taking in all of the taste and everything of the food, but more of just like that disconnecting. This is my time to nourish myself, to eat, if that's what I'm doing. Or I would even take like headphones and go for a walk. I would leave the building, or if I could leave at least that office, and go walk around for a few minutes. So that's something anyone can do. If you have a break, 15 minutes, take your break. Use that time, So if in between clients, sometimes I'll do my breathing or just practice, focusing on whatever I'm really enjoying that moment, gratitude. I do a lot of different things, but breathing, number one. I always say that's like the baseline. First thing, from there, everything else you can build. You got to start a foundation. So breathing is the foundation, I think. What about you?
For me, I learned EMDR, these like angel hugs, where you like hug yourself really tight, and then you just kind of like tap. Like that for me is like the warm fuzzy of just like everything is going to be okay. And I can do that anywhere at any time. And my second is I have like these little diffusers everywhere. I have one in my car that's got orange essential oils in it. I've got lemon here at home. I have like chamomile. So like I set up my body. So when I get home, it's my space to relax. It's very, very like soothing. In my bedroom, I have like the stress relief one. In the office, I have like the lemon mint verbena. So I get here and I'm like, okay, orange is very like elevating. So I had to go because I realized how much sensory stuff I have and how easily I go back to something based on a smell. So I try and go through, and when I come here, like when I smell this, I feel like I smell hope when I walk into my office. So when I feel like I smell hope when I get here, I can impart that same hope and peace and joy to my clients. When I feel energized in my car or peaceful at home, those things have been like go-tos. And probably the last one is Spotify, Disney. It has like changed the game for me. I'm like a 4-year-old trapped in an adult body. I listen to Disney, Spotify, because it just makes me feel like the world is an amazing place. They have this one with like every single long song known to man, and they add to it as new Disney movies come out, and I play it while I'm cooking. I play it on the drive home. Like,
That's
laughing
so
for me
funny.
is seriously, you can ask my husband. Like,
No,
it's on all the time,
I
and I
listen
tell my
to
clients.
I'll listen to like the Moana soundtrack for the Troll soundtrack. So that's like that is so funny. I love that.
And most of the time, people remember like happy parts of their lives around like childhood movies. So like I remember when we were young, we did sing along songs all the time. So that is like the epitome of nostalgia. And when I
Yeah.
learned EMDR and I realized how important our formative years were to how our brain has really developed, I was like, well, this is why I love it. These are like the best times of my childhood. So when I go
Yeah.
there and I'm doing, whether it's cleaning, cooking, whatever, it brings me back to a very happy place. So I tell my clients, find like that thing that you think about, that you chuckle like from your inside, that you'll laugh at about in a meeting when things are stressed out. And I have like a laundry list of them that I could just rattle off to myself when things get hard, that will cause me to crack a smile to get me out of that spot. So those have been like the main stress busters using mindfulness that I've been able to incorporate both personally and professionally through your amazing, oh my gosh, I'm like forever indebted to you,
Thank you.
gratitude
You're
wise,
so
for like
sweet.
really, you demystified it for me. And that's kind of like the work that I do, is demystifying like and making it less spooky about stuff. And I was like, I thought I had arrived. Well, this is what I'm doing. Then I was like, wait, there's so much more. And just
Yeah.
taking it from another lens to where it didn't feel so overwhelming. And that's what we do in therapy. We make the world less overwhelming for our clients.
Yeah.
And you just randomly in passing were like, hey, this is the greatest thing ever. Look at it this way. And it's transformed the lives of several of my clients as well as myself. So I was so
Oh,
excited to be able to be on here for real, like pitter patter, no tears though, because I almost did it, but no tears. Because it's just so interesting how much a little bit of information given to you in a state of ignorance will take something that's stigmatized and turn it into one of the most powerful tools that you could ever have. And while stress keeps happening, I'm more intentional, more mindful, more present.
yeah.
And sometimes I just sit with like yucky emotions when they come up. I don't like run away and hide. Like I've locked myself in the bathroom with anxiety or anger before and
Yes.
sat with that and tried to figure out like the why behind it.
Yes. I say people look at me like I'm crazy, but I'll say sometimes I just need a good cry. And I'll say, okay, this is my time to cry, and that's okay. Because we're human. Like it's information too for us. I don't say there are no bad feelings. They all give us information. So if I'm sad or I'm angry, then there's something that maybe I need to shift in my life. There's something that I need to work on. So if I run away from it, if I avoid it, if I shut down, then I'm not gonna grow. I'm not gonna change. I'm just gonna continue to live in that perpetual state. So it's okay. Embrace it.
Yeah, and there's also like no shame in not being okay. I spoke at my church on
Yeah.
Wednesday night, and I did like a self-care work-life balance. And I said, think about babies. Babies are never like, oh my gosh, somebody heard me cry because I'm sad or I'm hungry or I'm wet. As adults, we're like, no, I'm wet, I'm hungry, I'm sad, I'm tired, I'm okay. Versus like, I need to be changed. I'm sitting in poop. I need to
Yes.
cry. I need to let this out. Like our bodies are meant to like really heal themselves organically, and our emotions are there to go through and take what's not meant for us, that extra refuse, and get rid of it. And we're like, no,
Yes,
no, I'm
all done.
strong. I'll hold on to it. I'm an adult. You know what I mean? For real. Like, and I was
Yeah,
listening.
no, that's okay. I think we could talk seriously all day because I could go on also about the concept of no and how it's okay to say no and have boundaries and all of that all relates to it. But we'll be here like till midnight. But we have to do another one of these again. I think so for sure.
Indeed,
There's so
indeed. I
much
think
to
this was
talk
super,
about.
super informative. Yes, so if you guys are on, please follow both of us, Mindful Life Solutions all together, SW Support all together. You can
Yes.
email either one of us. I'm going to download this and upload it to Facebook and tag both of us in it. So if you weren't able to catch it on the live, you can catch it on the replay on both of our business pages, so you can have access to it. Any questions at all, you can email me, Jessica at SW Social Support, and you're Lisa at mindfullifesolutionsllc.com, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that is our information. Lisa, give them information about your practice location and where you're located and your hours and all that jazz.
Yeah, so I'm open Monday through Friday, typically around 9 to 7. I am in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so East Fort Lauderdale, off Oakland and Federal Highway, so like about a mile from the beach. And like I said before, I specialize in anxiety and trauma. I work a lot with stress, and it was great to be here. So if anybody is interested in working with me, feel free. You can book online with me, even at least like a consultation call right through my link tree on my Instagram page, if anybody's interested in that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm here in Davie, Florida. My name is Jessica. I go by the Superheroes Therapist. I work with people that are looking to find purpose in their life, take their hurt to healing, pain to purpose, and to really have like that work-life balance. So if you're a first responder, a therapist, a clergy person, someone who is just tired of looking in the mirror, not recognizing themselves, and needs an opportunity just to be human, you are welcome to come to that couch and we can chat. All right, guys, thank you again so much, Lisa. I am indebted to you. I really, really appreciate you doing this with me. You are absolutely amazing. You are the mindfulness guru in my eyes and always will be. All right, guys. Everyone be well. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Yeah.